Wealth is not just about money. It's about philosophy. Two people can earn the same paycheck, but one ends up broke while the other builds a fortune. It's not the money that makes the difference. It's the mindset. The way you see opportunity, the way you handle fear, the way you make decisions when nobody is watching, these are the invisible threads that weave financial success. Wealth is attracted by the person you become. And if you can change the way you think, discipline the way you act, and master the way you respond to life, you can't help but attract success. Tonight, I want to show you how the wealthy think and act so you can walk the very same path. When I was young, I thought wealth was something you chased. I thought it was out there, hiding in some corner of the world, waiting for me to find it if I just worked hard enough. But what I discovered is that wealth doesn't start out there. It starts in here, in your mind. Your mind is a magnet for wealth, and whatever you hold in it long enough begins to shape your reality. Most people spend their time thinking about lack. They say things like, "I can't afford that," or "that will never happen for me." And when you fill your mind with limits, your life soon reflects those limits. But the people who rise, the people who build fortunes, they train their minds to see abundance. Where others see obstacles, they see opportunities. Where others see risk, they see potential. They don't ask, "Why me?" They ask, "Why not me?" I remember when I was broke at 25. I didn't have much money in my pocket, but my mentor asked me a question that changed my life. He said, "If you were to win the lottery tomorrow and someone took away the money, could you build it back again?" At first, I didn't understand. Then I realized he was pointing me toward the real foundation of wealth. It wasn't money, it was mindset. Because if you develop the right philosophy, if you learn to think abundantly, you can build wealth again and again, no matter what happens. Here's the truth. Money doesn't flow to need, it flows to value. And value starts with imagination. You have to see it before you can seize it. You have to believe that opportunities exist for you, even when circumstances don't look promising. If you only ever think in terms of scarcity, every door will look closed. But if you train your thoughts to look for possibilities, suddenly doors begin to appear that others walk right past. So how do you do it? You start by feeding your mind with ideas that lift you instead of drag you down. Read books that expand your vision. Listen to people who challenge your excuses. Write down the life you want to live as if it already belongs to you. This isn't wishful thinking. It's deliberate design. Wealth always takes shape in your imagination before it ever appears in your bank account. So guard your thoughts. Train your mind to expect abundance. Because once you start thinking like the wealthy, it's only a matter of time before you start living like the wealthy. When I was broke, I used to think $1 wasn't much. I would spend it on small, careless things without giving it a second thought. But over time I learned that every fortune is built $1 at a time. Each dollar is a seed, and the way you treat it determines whether you end up with a harvest or with nothing but empty soil. If you treat it carelessly, it dies. But if you plant it wisely, if you respect it, it has the power to multiply and build a future far greater than you could imagine. The problem is, most people see money only as something to be spent. They get a paycheck, and before they can blink, it's gone. Rent, groceries, a little entertainment, maybe a new gadget, and by the end of the week, the pocket is empty. But here's the lesson. If you spend everything you earn, you're living like a farmer who eats all his seed in one season. What happens next season? Nothing grows, no harvest. The same ground, the same work, but no crop to show for it. I remember my mentor telling me, don't let $1 escape without assigning it a responsibility. That meant I had to give every dollar a job. Some dollars were for living, some were for saving, some were for investing, and some were for giving. But never should a dollar be wasted, because wasted money is wasted potential. When you start respecting every dollar, you begin to see money differently. Instead of saying, it's just $10, you start saying, that's 10 seeds. How can I plant them so they grow into 100? It could be as simple as putting it in a savings account that earns interest. It could be invested in a fund that compounds over years. It could be used to buy a book that improves your skills and makes you more valuable in the marketplace. The key is intention. Without intention, money slips through your fingers like sand. With intention, it builds brick by brick into freedom. So make it a rule. Budget, save, and invest with care. Even if all you can put aside is a few dollars a week, treat it like sacred ground. Protect it, nurture it, watch it grow. Because if you cannot be trusted with a little, you cannot be trusted with a lot. Respect the seed, and the harvest will come. Every dollar is more than paper. It's possibility. Handle it with care, and one day those little seeds will grow into a forest of abundance. When I was younger, I had plenty of dreams. I dreamed of having money, freedom, choices. I dreamed of living a life that was bigger than just paying bills and waiting for weekends. But I soon discovered something sobering. Dreams by themselves don't pay the rent. Dreams without discipline are nothing more than fantasies. You can imagine a grand future all you want, but without discipline, that future never arrives. Discipline is the bridge between ideas and riches. It's the structure that takes vision from your head and turns it into reality in your life. I can still remember the times when I had big ideas but no results. I told myself, one day I'll start saving. One day I'll invest. One day I'll work on that project. But every one day turned into another excuse. It wasn't until I learned discipline, the art of doing what I should do, whether I felt like it or not, that things began to change. Wealth doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to habits. Discipline shows up in the little things. The ability to wake up early when it's easier to stay in bed. The decision to manage your time when distractions call for your attention. The choice to save diligently when spending would feel more enjoyable. The determination to work consistently when quitting looks more tempting. These small acts of discipline are what build the foundation of financial success. They're not glamorous, they don't always feel exciting, but like bricks laid one after another, they form the bridge that carries you from where you are to where you want to be. I learned early that wealth is less about talent and more about habits. Plenty of smart people stay broke because they lack discipline. But I've also seen ordinary people with no special advantages rise to extraordinary levels of wealth simply because they mastered consistency. They didn't just dream, they did. They didn't just hope, they acted. And they did it every day, even when nobody was watching. So the question is not whether you have dreams. Everyone has dreams. The real question is, do you have the discipline to bring those dreams to life? Can you sacrifice a little comfort today for a greater reward tomorrow? Can you put in the daily effort even when progress feels slow? Because here's the truth. Riches are built in the quiet, consistent, disciplined moments of life, not in sudden strokes of luck. Discipline is freedom disguised as effort. Build it into your daily routine, and one day you'll look back and realize the bridge you built carried you right into the wealth you once only imagined. When I first entered the workforce, I thought the goal was to earn a living, get a job, work hard, collect a paycheck, and try to stay ahead of the bills. But what I discovered was that a paycheck only buys survival, not freedom. A paycheck keeps the lights on, but it rarely builds a future. If all you do is work for a living, you'll spend your life trading hours for dollars, and the day you stop working, the dollars stop coming. That's not wealth, that's a trap. The goal isn't just to earn a living. The goal is to work for a fortune. A fortune is more than money in the bank. A fortune is the freedom to decide how you spend your days, the ability to help people you care about, the peace of mind knowing that your future is secure. And you don't build that fortune by relying only on one paycheck. Because if one paycheck is your only source of income, you're always just one decision, one company policy, or one unexpected crisis away from financial trouble. Real wealth is built when you learn to create income streams beyond your job. I remember when I was working long hours, thinking that working harder was the answer. But harder work at the same job doesn't always mean higher rewards. What changed my life was realizing I could use a small percentage of my time, maybe 5 to 10%, to start building something of my own. It didn't have to replace my job at first, but it had to grow. A side project, a small business, an investment that worked while I was sleeping. These were the seeds of my fortune. It doesn't matter how small you begin. Maybe you set aside an evening each week to learn a new skill you can use to freelance. Maybe you take a portion of your paycheck and invest it in an asset that grows over time. Maybe you sell a product online or start a service that fills a need in your community. The key isn't the size, the key is the intention. You're no longer just working for survival, you're building for freedom. So ask yourself, am I only working to keep the lights on, or am I working to create a future that shines brighter than my present? Don't settle for survival. Begin creating streams of income that move you from a paycheck existence to a fortune lifestyle. Because in the end, survival will keep you alive, but wealth will set you free. One of the earliest lessons I had to learn, painfully I might add, was this. If you spend more than you earn, you are not living. You are borrowing from your future. And the problem with borrowing from your future is that one day the future arrives and it comes to collect. Debt doesn't just take money, it steals freedom. It robs you of choices. It makes you a servant to yesterday's decisions. And I knew if I wanted to be free, I had to stop digging the hole I was standing in. I remember a time when I made a little more money than I ever had before. And you know what I did? I spent it, all of it, and a little more. Because I thought that if my income grew, my lifestyle should grow too. I thought that was success. But I was wrong. I wasn't building wealth. I was building pressure. I was living in a house I didn't own, driving a car I couldn't afford, and wearing clothes that cost more than the cash in my wallet. It looked good, but it felt awful. Because every dollar I overspent became a chain around my future. Then I learned the art of living with dignity, not extravagance. Dignity doesn't mean deprivation. It means living within your means and doing it with pride. It means you're not trying to impress people you don't even know with money you don't even have. It means you measure success not by what you spend, but by what you keep. There is strength in restraint. There is power in discipline, and there is freedom in knowing that your life is not defined by your purchases, but by your principles. One of the most practical tools I discovered was the simple 70 divided by 20 divided by 10 rule. Live on 70% of what you earn. That's your rent, your food, your transportation, your daily life. Then take 20% and save it or invest it. That's how you buy your future. And then take the final 10% and give it. Give it to causes you believe in, people in need, or the place that feeds your spirit. Because giving reminds you that life is about more than accumulation. It's about contribution. That formula changed everything. It gave me a framework for freedom. It allowed me to stop chasing the next dollar, just to stay afloat. And here's the beautiful part. When you live below your means, you can build above your circumstances. Because you've created margin, and margin gives you options, and options give you freedom. So let me say it again. Never spend more than you earn. It's not just a financial principle, it's a life principle. Because the goal is not to look rich, the goal is to be free. When I was younger, I believed the only way to get ahead was to work harder. If I wanted more money, I thought the answer was to put in more hours. And yes, hard work has its place. But here's the problem. There are only so many hours in a day, and only so much strength in your body. If all your wealth depends on your labor, you'll eventually hit a ceiling. That's when I learned one of the most powerful lessons about money. Money is a servant if you teach it how to work. If you don't, it becomes a master, and not a very kind one. Think of money as little employees. Every dollar has a job to do. You can either spend it and watch it disappear, or you can put it to work and let it multiply. The goal is to make your money work harder than you do. If you spend your life working for money, you'll always be tied to the grind. But if you train your money to work for you, one day you can wake up and find that it's earning while you're resting, growing while you're sleeping, multiplying while you're living your life. That is when you move from survival to wealth. The way to do this is through compounding and smart investments. Compounding is one of the most magical forces in the financial world. It takes a small amount, given enough time and discipline, and turns it into something extraordinary. A single dollar invested wisely doesn't just sit still, it grows, and the growth itself starts to grow. It's like planting a tree. You don't just get fruit, you get seeds that grow more trees. But here's the key. Compounding only works if you give it time and consistency. That's why you can't keep pulling money out of the soil if you want it to grow into a forest. For me, it began with simple investments. I didn't chase the fanciest opportunities. I looked for steady, proven vehicles, index funds, mutual funds, and assets that historically grow over time. Real estate that produced income instead of draining it, businesses that could function without me being present every minute. Each one was another little employee working shifts while I was free to focus on growth, learning, and contribution. I had to shift my mindset from being just a worker to being a manager, managing not only my time, but my dollars. And every time I invested, I asked myself, will this dollar come back with friends? Will it multiply? If the answer was yes, it got hired. If not, it got spent with intention and finality. The truth is, financial freedom doesn't come from how hard you work. It comes from how hard your money works once you learn how to put it to work. Because at the end of the day, it's better to have dollars earning for you than to spend your entire life earning every dollar yourself. I used to think wealth was a matter of luck. That if the right opportunity showed up, if I was in the right place at the right time, maybe I'd get my break. But I soon discovered that waiting for wealth is like waiting for a ship at the airport. It doesn't work that way. Wealth doesn't arrive by accident, it arrives by design. You don't stumble into fortune. You build it, step by step, with a plan that guides your actions. Without a plan, even a high income can vanish into thin air. With a plan, even modest earnings can be transformed into lasting wealth. I remember sitting down for the first time with a blank sheet of paper. It was intimidating. But that paper was about to become the blueprint for my financial future. I wrote down where I wanted to be 5 years from now. Not just vague hopes like, I want to be rich, or I want to have more money, but specific, measurable goals. How much did I want saved? How much invested? What kind of income streams did I want working for me? What debts did I want gone? That clarity gave me direction. Suddenly, wealth wasn't a dream, it was a destination. And here's the key. Once you set a 5-year financial goal, you have to break it down. Big goals will overwhelm you if you don't divide them into smaller, practical steps. If the aim is to have $100,000 invested in 5 years, then you need to know how much that means each year, each month, and even each week. Suddenly, the impossible becomes possible because you're not climbing the whole mountain at once. You're just taking one step at a time. A plan also keeps you honest. Without a plan, emotions take over. You buy things you don't need because they feel good in the moment. You delay saving because it seems too small to matter. But a plan reminds you, every action counts. Every dollar saved is a brick in the foundation. Every investment is a seed in the ground. Every wise choice is a step toward the vision you've written down. And let me tell you, there's something powerful about writing it down. Don't just keep it in your head, ink it on paper. Your mind will find ways to move toward what you put in writing. It's like programming your future. Wishes live in the clouds, but plans live on paper. And paper has a way of pulling dreams down into reality. So don't wish for wealth, design it. Don't hope to arrive, chart the course. Because fortune doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. And the choice begins the moment you sit down, pen in hand, and decide where your money and your life are going to go. I've seen more people lose money because of emotions than because of bad opportunities. It isn't poverty that ruins most financial lives. It's greed, impatience, and fear. These 3 emotions are like thieves that sneak in and steal what you've worked so hard to build. If you don't master them, they will master you. And if they master you, wealth will always stay just out of reach. Greed whispers, double your money overnight. Take the shortcut. Go all in. I've watched people gamble fortunes away because they couldn't resist that voice. They thought wealth was a sprint, when in truth, it's a marathon. Greed makes you blind to risk and deaf to reason. It tempts you to trade steady progress for a roll of the dice. I remember a friend who once poured everything he had into a can't-miss deal. It looked shiny, it looked fast, and it disappeared just as fast. What he lost wasn't just money. It was years of his financial life. Then there's impatience. Wealth loves patience, but impatience destroys it. Impatience says, why wait? Why save? Why let compounding do its work when you can spend today and figure tomorrow out later? But tomorrow always comes. And when it does, impatience hands you the bill. Every dollar wasted on instant gratification is a dollar that could have been working for you, compounding, multiplying, building freedom. I had to train myself to ask a simple question before every purchase. Will this matter in 5 years? Most of the time, the answer was no. That little question helped me keep impatience in its place. And then there's fear. Fear is the opposite of faith. Fear says, don't invest, you might lose. Don't start that business, you might fail. Don't try, it's too risky. But the truth is, not trying is the riskiest move of all. Fear keeps people locked in jobs they hate, living paycheck to paycheck, too scared to step into the unknown. I felt it myself when I was younger, hesitating to put money into investments because I might lose a little. But I learned that if you let fear keep you from planting seeds, you'll never have a harvest. The secret is balance. Be cautious, but not paralyzed. Be ambitious, but not reckless. Be patient, but not passive. Wealth doesn't come to those who let emotions steer the ship. It comes to those who keep their hands steady on the wheel, who stay rational when others panic, who remain patient when others chase quick gains. The crowd will always swing between fear and greed, but discipline, calm, and patience, that is what sets you apart. And when you learn to master your emotions with money, you unlock the kind of stability that no storm can shake. When I was younger, I thought money was only about things. Cars, clothes, nice houses, fancy dinners. And while those things can be enjoyable, I eventually realized that the greatest thing money can buy is not stuff, it's time. Wealth is freedom. It's the ability to wake up in the morning and say, today I choose what I will do, not my boss, not my bills, not my circumstances. That's the ultimate return on money, freedom of choice. Now, here's the problem. Most people spend their money buying trinkets and toys, and then they spend their life working harder to pay for them. They've traded time for things, and now they have neither freedom nor wealth. That's not the goal. The goal is to buy back your time so you can spend it where it matters most. On your health, your family, your dreams, your growth, and even your rest. Because if money can't give you time, it hasn't given you much at all. Let me give you an example. I once asked myself, why am I spending hours mowing my lawn, fixing things around the house, or running errands when I could pay someone else a little to do it? Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing dishonorable about mowing a lawn. But when I freed up that time, I could use it to write, to teach, to build my business, to invest in the activities that multiplied my future. A few dollars saved on chores can cost you thousands in missed opportunity. That's the trade-off most people don't see. It's the same with investing. If you put money into assets that grow without you, stocks, real estate, businesses, you're buying back time. You're creating systems that work even when you sleep. Think about it. Money that works for you doesn't take vacations, it doesn't call in sick, and it doesn't complain. It just compounds quietly, turning dollars into freedom. And here's the truth. Wealth is not measured by how many things you own, but by how much time you control. A man who makes $1 million but has no time is poorer than the man who makes 50,000 but has freedom over his days. So the question to ask with every dollar is, will this purchase give me more time, or will it take more of my time away? If it steals time, it's a liability. If it buys time, it's an investment. So let your money work where it counts. Outsource the small. Automate the routine. Invest in the long term. Because when you use money to buy time, you're not just rich in wealth, you're rich in life. When people think of wealth, they imagine some big windfall, a lottery ticket, a giant inheritance, a sudden breakthrough that makes them rich overnight. But that's a dangerous fantasy. Real wealth isn't built in a day, it's built day by day. Success is like a wall, and every brick matters. You don't need to lay them all at once. You just need to lay one brick, then another, then another. Small, steady, consistent actions are what create fortunes. I remember when I first started saving. It wasn't glamorous. I wasn't tucking away thousands. Sometimes it was just a few dollars, sometimes even coins. But here's the secret. It wasn't the size that mattered, it was the habit. Because habits are stronger than emotions, stronger than excuses, stronger than the ups and downs of life. When you discipline yourself to save and invest, no matter how little, you build a foundation so strong that nothing can shake it. Think about compounding. A single dollar invested may not seem like much, but given time, it multiplies. That $1 turns into 2, then into 4, and eventually into something you could never have imagined at the start. But only if you start. Too many people wait until they have enough to begin. They say, once I make more, then I'll save. Once I have extra, then I'll invest. But that day never comes. Because it's not about the amount, it's about the discipline. If you can't save $1, you won't save 10. If you can't invest 10, you won't invest 100. The habit must come first, then the growth. Consistency has another magic. It builds momentum. When you save a little every day, you begin to think differently. You carry yourself differently. You start noticing opportunities you didn't see before because your mind is tuned toward growth. And soon, what was once small becomes significant. That little account begins to grow. The habits harden into character, and character creates destiny. I've often said that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. The tragedy is that failure is just as simple. A few errors in judgment repeated over time. If you buy coffee every day without thinking, that's an error repeated. If you invest $1 every day without fail, that's a discipline repeated. And the difference between the two isn't visible today, but in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, the gap is staggering. So don't despise small beginnings. Don't laugh at a single dollar invested. Don't wait until you can do it big. Start where you are with what you have and let time and consistency do the heavy lifting, because the real secret to wealth is not speed, it's not luck, it's consistency. One brick at a time, one habit at a time, until one day you look back and realize you built something extraordinary. When I was young, I thought the key to wealth was simply to work harder and longer than everyone else. I thought the man who spent the most hours at his job would surely be the man who got ahead. But I quickly discovered that the marketplace doesn't pay for time, it pays for value. 2 people can work the same 8 hours, yet one comes home with 10 times the income. The difference isn't effort, it's value. The marketplace is brutally honest. It doesn't care about your needs, your struggles, or how long you've been at it. It measures one thing. What are you worth in terms of service, contribution, and results? That's why some people earn a modest wage while others earn a fortune. They've found a way to make themselves more valuable. And here's the best news. You can too. Value is built by skills. If you want more income, you don't need more hours, you need sharper skills. When I learned this, it was like a light bulb went off. I realized that my paycheck wasn't determined by the company, the economy, or luck. It was determined by me. If I improved my ability to communicate, to lead, to solve problems, to sell, then my value would rise. And if my value rose, so would my income. That's the simple equation. Think of it this way. If you're paid $10 an hour, that's not a statement about your worth as a person. It's simply a reflection of the value you bring to that hour. But if you can develop a skill that allows you to generate $10,000 of value in an hour, the marketplace will pay accordingly. That's why doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, and investors can earn extraordinary sums. They've cultivated rare and valuable skills that solve important problems. But don't think value is only about money. Contribution matters too. The more you give, the more you serve, the more you help, the more valuable you become. People remember those who solve problems for them, those who make their lives better. Wealth follows contribution like a shadow follows the body. So instead of asking, how can I make more money? Ask, how can I create more value? Money will always be the echo of the value you've produced. Start simple. Pick one skill, just one, that you know will make you more valuable in the marketplace. Maybe it's learning to sell, because sales is the lifeblood of business. Maybe it's communication, because words move people. Maybe it's leadership, because teams need vision. Maybe it's investing, because capital needs direction. Focus on it daily. Sharpen it, refine it, practice it, until it becomes second nature. If you commit to becoming more valuable every year, your income will chase you down. Remember, Don't chase money, chase value. Money is always looking for value. And when you become the kind of person who creates it, you won't have to pursue wealth. Wealth will pursue you.